I absolutely hated watching this anime. Not because it was bad or anything. In fact, looking back, I'd actually say it was really good. It was simply the fact that there's just no redeemable characters. You're presented with the ugliest side of human nature. The side that incites bullying, pushes people into acts of self-harm, and manipulates others. In this show, everyone's a victim of circumstance. And when given that opportunity, make the worst decisions possible. Also, just a heads up, I want to mention some details from the show, so there will be spoilers ahead. So if you want to watch it, keep that in mind. We start off with this pink octopus thing, Takopi, that was sent to Earth on a mission to make others happy. And who could be a better candidate than the Gloomy elementary school student that offered him some bread? I mean, it was some nice bread, so perfectly understandable. Meet Shizuka, a young girl that clearly doesn't have the best life. Her home life is pretty much non-existent as her own mother isn't really concerned for her well-being. And at school, she has people like Marina and her goons doing anything they can to just make her life significantly worse. And the fact that she seems to just be going with the flow tells us one thing. Shizuka has entirely given up on life. And honestly, can you even blame her? Her struggles aren't invisible to those around her, not to her classmates, to her teachers, parents, or even the police. Yet they still choose to pretend as though it just doesn't exist. Nevertheless, Takopi makes the commitment to make Shizuka's life better. And honestly, I didn't know what to expect, but it sure wasn't for Takopi to just be so ignorant to the situation and only address surface level issues, which just made Marina more agitated. Even more so that she was willing to get bitten by her dog just to have him taken away from her. You see, what Takopi failed to realize is that this wasn't just a simple case of kids having a small conflict here and there. There was genuine animosity behind those eyes and emotion so deep and so potent that it would even push you to commit acts of extreme violence. Eventually, Shizuka decides that she's had enough and takes her own life, which pushes Takopi to reset the timeline. However, this time it was Marina that dies instead of Shizuka. Her reaction to Marina's death really wasn't surprising, but there was still something so unsettling about this moment. Marina was making her everyday life worse, but the fact that someone so young can witness their classmate pass away and feel nothing was really concerning. In fact, I think this was actually the happiest she's ever been from what we've seen so far. We have this big moment for her where she overcomes her biggest adversary, and it seems for a second that she'll just go back to her normal life with Marina gone. But then we get to see a different side of her as she asks Takopi to disguise itself as Marina to prevent her parents from knowing, which is obviously a terrible idea for more than one reason. But at the end of the day, she doesn't really care about any of that. As long as her life won't get worse because of the situation, in her eyes, nothing else really matters. However, as bad as this idea is, it allows us to see into Marina's home dynamic. And while it doesn't justify any of the pain she put Shizuka through, you kind of start to feel for her. You see, Marina's parents just can't see eye to eye. Her mom suffers from abandonment issues and financial stress, which comes as a result of Marina's dad having an affair with Shizuka's mom, who is an escort. In Marina's eyes, Shizuka's mom is the source of all her troubles, and the closest outlet she has for all that frustration is her daughter. Now, at this point, I'm already over 2. The character I was rooting for turns out to be a terrible person, and the character I've been hating since episode 1 actually has a sad backstory. There's really no character you can root for, and I was thinking, well, it couldn't possibly get any worse from here. Then this guy showed up. See, Azuma is your typical smart kid, pulling in high grades with leadership positions in class and a family culture that pushes him to strive for more. Now, he seems alright at first, but when asked to help Shizuka cover up the whole Marina situation, he just folds instantly. Now, what could make a smart kid with a bright future risk it all for something that had nothing to do with him? Well, The answer is that Shizuka looks like his mom. You see, Azuma's mom is a top medical professional with her own private practice and has always held her kids to a standard of absolute perfection. A standard that Azuma's brother can reach effortlessly, while he always fell short. Sure, he's getting relatively high grades, but in his mom's eyes, anything less than a perfect score is just worthless. And in order to really hammer in her disappointment, she always bakes these pancakes that he can only have if his grades are perfect. Whenever she checks the report card and doesn't see a perfect score, she just throws them away right in front of him. Those were good pancakes, man. She uses them to motivate her kids to do better, but really all it does is set Azuma on a search for approval and affection. So when a girl that resembles his mom comes along and asks him to cover up for a murder for her, he just goes along with it. As the story goes on, Shizuka grows into a much worse version of herself. While the version from the beginning was just taking it all in, this version was passing it on to others with no regard for their well-being, because she was never cared for like that anyway. She never learned what care was, and as a result has no concept of how her actions affect others. We start to see this when the police discover Marina's body, and of course Shizuka comes under a wave of suspicion, because if anyone has any reason to take her out, it would be the victim of her bullying. But the issue here is that she tells Azuma to just hand himself in and take all the blame, which results in his whole family coming under scrutiny. Following this, she decides to go pay her dad a visit for the first time since he left. And I'm not gonna lie, watching Shizuka make her way over to Tokyo with a sense of childlike wonder that was just absent this entire time kinda made it all seem worth it. As if everything that happened was just water under the bridge, and that maybe, just maybe, she'll get a taste of a normal life, only to be met with rejection. And that's it. That's the final straw. Every single person in her life has failed her, and at such a young age, she never really got the chance to develop a solid foundation to stand on in the face of adversity. She goes on to kidnap her newly found sisters and spirals until she's almost unrecognizable. So much so that even the happy-go-lucky alien that's been optimistic this whole time starts to look at her differently and comes to the realization that trying to fix her life indirectly set her on a worse path. Maybe what she needed wasn't a bunch of fancy gadgets to make her become friends with Marina overnight. Maybe the one thing that they actually needed was a window into each other's minds. Something as simple as a goofy drawing of a cartoon octopus to give them a moment of clarity that lets them know that they aren't alone, and that there's at least one person that can help take the weight of the world off their shoulders. Alright, so thanks for watching the video. By the time this goes up, I should be live on Twitch right now, so head on over to Mormochi, drop a follow, and also rate the video out of 10, just based on how much you liked it. Alright, that's it. Peace.